Okay, we'll go ahead and start here. We'll call the town forum meeting, and it has down that Mayor Howell will be conducting a town hall meeting that will focus on the vision and feasibility for a municipal pool. I'm going to go through a couple other things as well. I'm going to start with the police station. Those that were here for the state of the city, we talked about the police station. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now. We entered into talks with LaSalle, Oglesby, and Spring Valley to see the feasibility of building a shared facility, and we're not in that anymore. But it's time to start moving and acting on something if we're going to do it at all. We did have a study done that shows our deficiencies at the police department that we have, and there's quite a few deficiencies. Actually, the study does say that with some of our ADA deficiencies, there isn't a fix for that building. So there's an issue there, and you need to do something about it. On the agenda for later during the regular meeting, there'll be a question asked for motion to approve an architectural service agreement with Basali K. Alstad for Phase 1 services. I'll ask our engineer, Eric Carls, at this time, explain what this is, where this is at on the totem pole for moving forward, and, just what this is.
Yes, certainly. Any capital improvement projects, we often refer to them in 3 phases. Phase 1 is your pre-design phase, where we generate enough information or data for us to decide budget numbers, what a project might cost us, what timing looks like, where we may locate, in this case, a building, and a number of other factors before we make a final decision to go to Phase 2, which is the actual design phase of a building and the site, and then, property acquisitions and things of that nature. And then the Phase 3 portion is the actual construction of the building. So this agreement, I've been working with Basali Carey now for a few years since we made a selection of them through our qualification-based selection process. And we started some of the Phase 1 work when we were looking at this with the other municipalities. So I had asked that we structure this contract in an hourly rate so that I can manage the contract a little bit better, so that we can sift through the data that we've already generated when we were looking at this with 3 municipalities. At that time, we had a site selected. At this time, we don't have a site selected, so another part of this Phase 1 study is an evaluation of potential sites that'll be done by the professional and their opinions on those potential sites. And then we'll also be working with Chief Burnaby and his group in determining what a building footprint would look like, and then ultimately what that building footprint would cost us. So then we would come before the City Council and present that information so that they can make an informed decision on whether or not we would move forward to the design phase of that project.
Does anybody have any questions for Eric on that? They're not going into the all-out design. All we're doing is starting. So if we're going to do it, we need to start somewhere. And like I said, it's been 2 years, so it's time to move forward with something. So hopefully that will be supported. I don't know what else we can talk about. During committees, I don't know what else there is we can talk about. So we'll either do it or we won't do it. One of the two. Trouble is, you have a police force that you have sergeants and lieutenants basically in a broom closet that's been remodeled. You have the deputy chief and the commander in a room about 8 by 8, and they're in there together. You have 2 detectives in a room that's roughly, I'm going to say, 10 by 10. And with taking care of the prisoners, it's very difficult because prisoners need to be moved through civilian areas. There's not a way to move prisoners over in the Peru Police Department in a manner that I've seen in the departments that I've been through. They need to go through, like I said, civilian areas, and it's not a good thing. But we need to start somewhere, so we'll see what happens when we go to the regular council meeting. So then after the, police station, we have a very good park system in the city of Peru, and we have a lot of potential. I feel we're missing out on the potential that's there for the facilities that we have. One thing that you do hear mentioned quite a bit is Peru doesn't do anything. Well, I beg to differ on that, because we have an event this Friday and Saturday with the TBM Avenger event that the committee's been working on since about a week after it was over last year, and they do a very good job of it, but it would help to have somebody in-house to keep everything on paper and everything rolling. I know Mr. Dave Laurie here, I think you raised your hand and you took the reins this year, and thank you for doing that, but you also have a business to run too. So I understand that. Some of you may remember the Maud Powell Festival that we had, it was great. It was wonderful. Those that were volunteering to run that festival, they know that there's a great deal of time involved, and it came to the time where they couldn't do it anymore for their own personal reasons, so they didn't do it. So we haven't had it. I think it's for 2 years now, and that was a wonderful event. Brought in a lot of people. They did a fantastic job, but now we don't have anybody that will do it. The volunteers, it's just I don't know where it's at, but it's not out there. They're not coming through the door to do that. That was a great deal of work that did. Festivals, having festival, using our town, our parking lots, our parks to have more things going on. The Parks and Recreation Department's doing a wonderful job, but it is a little hard. I think, Ray, you would probably agree with me. It is a little hard when you meet once a month, formally, in a meeting. You meet once a month and you try to organize, and then once again you're looking for volunteers. We have a part-time Parks and Rec director in Seth, and Seth is wonderful. He's absolutely wonderful, and we all appreciate everything he does, but he's also he has a job too, So I'm asking for the support on it's on the agenda tonight to make a motion and let HR advertise this. So Recreation Director, Special Events Coordinator. Job summary: develop, organize, promote, and direct the recreational program and special events within the city. Recreation Director, essential duties and responsibilities include the following. Other duties may be assigned: plan and coordinate all current city recreational programs, evaluate current programs and implement new programs if needed, promote and market all recreational programs, coordinate, prepare, or organize preparation of facilities, rooms, fields, etc., where programs will be conducted. We have calls coming in to City Hall now where people want to, they want to rent they want to reserve a time for the shelters that are in the splash pad. The splash pad is a wonderful facility, and it became very, very viable, and people want to use it. So we have that going on. This person, Special Events Coordinator, essential duties and responsibility include the following: coordinate, organize, and facilitate special community events throughout the year, research and recommend new community event opportunities, promote and market all community events, participate in the development of a special event, ensure all safety procedures are followed, ensure compliance with all city regulations and ordinances, coordinate all vendors associated with community events. Qualifications and skills: ability to prepare promotional and marketing materials, strong communication skills, both oral and written, strong interpersonal skills, proficient in Microsoft Word, Excel, etc. Detail-oriented, ability to prioritize workload, possess a bachelor's degree in recreation studies, economic development, business administration, or a related field, and experience with documentation findings for 3 to 5 years.
Mr. Mayor, can I get a copy? Can we get a copy of that?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
I thought they handed them out in the... Does anybody in the audience want one now? I have a few more here, and we can make some more copies. Anybody? Anybody want to look at one?
Mayor,
if the council agrees to turn it over to HR, and for the HR to advertise it, otherwise there wouldn't be a reason to have it on our website. It's an opportunity. We have so much going on here in Peru, and so much more potential, and it's an opportunity in my opinion, you shouldn't pass up. You shouldn't pass it up. There's too much happening here. Too much that can happen here as well. You know, which there'll be a poster here of the new park, the splash pad park, where we instead of putting in the smaller concrete area for basketball, we enlarge it. So then this year there was ice there, and then your plans are in the future to have your ice boards for your ice hockey. If that goes over well, then also have chillers, so you can expand the time that you'll be using it. So instead of just relying on Mother Nature to give you weather down in the 20s and 10s and teens to keep ice, you'll be able to have ice longer. And other towns have done it, and it went over well, so then they started open air, and then they put a roof over it so you wouldn't have the snow, but still open air, and then some have gone on and went ahead and closed it in. So ice is popular. Economic Development Victory and he's well aware that every time we talk to a developer, I ask him, are you interested in putting ice in? Are you interested in ice? You know, some of the malls that are rebuilding, because retail isn't what it once was, so some of the malls, they're putting ice rinks inside their mall. So ice is a good thing. The only way you're going to be able to utilize what you already have is by putting somebody in place to do it. It is what it is, you know. So I'm hoping the council will support that tonight. We've talked about it. Do you have any questions? I know the finance committee said that they wanted me to come in and give a presentation, but what else do you want? What else are you asking for?
How much you paying?
It's in the wage ordinance, $52,000. It's in the wage ordinance. The finance committee went through that. I'm told that they didn't have a problem with that. I don't know.
I guess one of my questions would be, we have an ordinance that oversees the rec board, and that authorizes the rec board to hire people, among some other things it authorizes the rec board to do. What needs to be changed in that ordinance if we hire I haven't read that ordinance recently, so I'm just curious what would need to be changed there if we hire a full-time person, so there's not overlap.
I'm glad you brought up the rec board. I don't know exactly how that reads, but this in no way, shape, or form is to replace the rec board. You're still going to have a rec board. I look at it as the same as what goes on here with the administration, the mayor, the clerk, the engineering office, the building office, the economic development office, and then we present to council for your review and passage or not. And it will be the same way, the way I look to see it. So I don't know what would need to be changed, because you're not replacing the board. There'll be some changes. The recreation, they can approve the expenses, but they won't be putting the checks out there, meaning, you know, for payment and paying vendors and whatnot.
I guess I'm getting at it, the rec board, I believe, has already hired a part-time for the summer, this summer. Did we hire Seth for the summer? Not yet.
No, Seth is well aware that I've talked to Seth, because like I said, I like Seth. He's wonderful. He's also a teacher and an athletic director, and you don't want him to leave his profession, because that's what he wanted to do. That was his life's ambition. But if he's interested in this, if it passes here and he's interested in it and wants to put an application, you know, I think we would love to review the applications. I don't know. There is interest. I have heard interest out in the communities, not just Peru, you know, on this, because there's so much that we have that can happen. For instance, this band shell that I brought up at the State of the City. This structure, as you see it, I don't have the exact dimensions in front of me, but as you see it, is roughly, you buy it as a package, it's roughly $130,000 structure. if we decide to do it, and if we approve it, there's nothing here to approve, tonight naturally, but if we decide to do it and we approve it, I would look to see it, and I've talked with Finance Director Justin Miller, I would look to do it and break it between 2 budget cycles. Do all of your ground preparation, and then the next budget cycle, go ahead and if the building isn't already purchased, then go ahead and erect the building. Morris just put one in. It's very nice. It's similar to this. The company that did Morris is not in business any longer. Morris did it basically the same way. They bought the structure. They had it stored at their airport for, I believe Mayor Kupchik told me, 6 or 8 years. And then finally they decided to go ahead and put it up, and it's right by their pool, and it's nice. My suggestion for where it would go, but that's just me looking and thinking at it, is on the south end of Centennial Park on the other side of 13th Street, because you have a natural amphitheater. If anybody ever goes to New Lenox and looks in their City Hall area, they have a large complex with their governmental buildings and libraries and police stations, and they have in the middle, they have a pond, and they have a band shelter there, and it's nice. It's very nice. They have a lot going on. So I went through the person. Does anybody else have any questions on it?
Well, I have,
A couple, actually. Are you looking to create a whole new department? Will this
This would be,
who they?
there'll be, as you see, it reports to and department isn't filled out. Okay, they're going to be, basically they're going to be reporting to the Recreation Committee, to the administration to the council, and they'll be reporting to, and this person will be reporting to the Recreation Committee. Right now, I know Alderman Sapienza, he goes to most, if not all, of the recreation meetings, but there's still a disconnect there, and we need to close that disconnect and take advantage of everything that we have in this town.
well, I understand that, but are you gonna ask this person to be responsible for the summer help and all of that?
Be responsible for the summer help in the parks.
In the park?
In the parks, in coordination with the PSM King on that. He's trying to bring people on. Actually, it's still coming in kind of slow this year, isn't it? Number one, LP's not out of school until whenever, halfway through June, and with the tight job market, a lot of the kids are going to other places to bag the merchandise that's coming across the shelf, the counter, because they're paying more than what we're paying. But we'll see how many we have. It puts us in a difficult spot, to say the least.
What are the expectations of this person? I mean, how many new events are they expected to, start going? Are they looking, is there any type of one event a month, and what type of events are, I know that's kind of getting further ahead of the past, but I mean, they are expected to create new events, not just.
Oh, absolutely new events. Well, re-up with the events that are gone now. I mean, in the Mon Powell event, help with the TBM vendor, because once again, there's a wonderful committee that does that, but it's a lot of work. I know Alderman Lukosius is on it, Dave Laurie's on it, and you can attest to it. It's a lot of work, and it will help keep everything together. Yes.
I don't disagree with you. I do believe that there are some wonderful things in this city. We are missing opportunities to bring more community involvement and visitors into our city. So I agree with you on that. And I agree that we're short-staffed. Again, I ask you to widen that net, to find a wider pool of people with the talent who may be interested in inquiring or filling out this position that will be posted on the city's website, which is done by other municipalities and organizations under careers. So I ask that the administration would consider that.
Well, our neighbor just to the east of us, LaSalle, they do a great job. They have a very active business association, extremely active business association, and they do a wonderful job. And the city has an athletic, or not an athletic, a recreation director. They also have a full-time economic development director. And many of the things they're doing over there, they're coordinating with the city, but the city's coordinating with the business association. But they put on a lot, and quite frankly, I'm jealous of it. They do a great job. I really am. Oglesby across the river, they're less than half our size, and they do more than what we do. But we don't have the person in here to do it. So all I'm asking is for somebody to start to coordinate and organize things. It's not asking for that much. I don't believe that it's asking for that much. At the 52,000, Alderman Farrar, you asked what it was, 52,000. Benefits are roughly, what, Justin, 40%?
I'd be a little lower than that on that type of position, yeah.
Okay, so let's go aggressive on that, because that would be the conservative route, 40%. So what I'm talking about is for the health insurance, for the workman's comp, for the total package, it's roughly 40%. Like the finance officer just said, I don't know if we go that high, but just to make the math easy, you're looking at 20,000 on top of the 52. You know, it's not just 52.
There's a lot of variables that do, you know, different times.
But for the purposes of what we're doing right now, I don't want to say that if you bring somebody on at 52,000, it's going to cost the city the taxpayers 56,000, because that wouldn't be fair, because that's not what it is. It's you know, with the package, with the IMRF, with the insurance, with the just the whole package. So
in reference to who they would report to, they would, in essence, be a department head of the parks at this point in time, correct?
Yes. Right, because they're going to be coming up with their own ideas. They're going to be throwing the ideas at the administration in here. They're going to be putting the ideas out in front of the recreation board, you know, and then ultimately things go, you know, the festivals and whatnot don't go to the council. You'll be aware of it, but they're not going to go to the council, meaning if they can do it. The only thing that we have right now in writing is if there's going to be a structural change at the park, new playground equipment, the likes of that. There's going to be a structural change, a new batting cage. I believe the last with the Little League, the instructional league was in here for, did they ever put up a backstop at the T-ball over the former Peru, the pool site? I thought there was something. They came in and asked for it. I don't know if they ever did put up a backstop or not. What's that? Yeah, that was last year, a couple of years ago. That was a little while ago, but
We already passed our budget for this year, and the park board has a budget. Are we going to set up a new budget for this, or explain how you're going to do that?
We can amend that. There's probably enough in that budget the first year, but you don't want to short the budget, because there's an extra $131,000, I believe, if you're looking at the budget right now. Extra $131,000. There's also $55,000 in there in the budget for new equipment that's not yet purchased. I don't believe there's nothing purchased, is there, Ray?
Not yet,
no. No. So there's $55,000 in there. There's a cushion right there. There's a few things that are rollovers from prior years. I don't know. We haven't crunched the numbers because we don't know if we need to yet. But if you give the permission and we go there, you're going to know exactly what the numbers are. You know, are we going to have to go back and readdress and move that $100,000 entrance into the recreation department to 120 or 150? I don't know. First year, I don't think so, because if you look at this, right now, today is the 13th of May. If you were to approve this tonight, HR would have it on the 14th of May. By the time it's drawn up and it hits the newspaper and all the advertising that needs to go out to ask for someone, you're probably looking, if you're in this week, it would be a stretch, and then you're going to want it advertised for at least 10 days, so now May's gone. And then once the resumes start coming in, you're into the middle of June, And then, once the resumes come in, then you need to start reviewing the resumes, and then if there's resumes that you're going to go to the next step and have interviews. So you're into minimum mid to late July.
Ray, can I ask you a question? When do your summer programs start?
Right around the 10th.
Of June.
June, yes.
And the splash pad opens up at the end of May, right?
That's correct. We're going to have our sign up at Washington Park on the Saturday, and we will begin the programs on the following Monday.
Okay.
That program is prepared, and those are out at the schools and on the city's website, Facebook, and in utility bills this month.
Well, I get, what I'm leaning towards is this: if the timeline from approving to put the ad out to find this person takes us into the middle of June or July, then we need to make a decision about Seth for this season. We can't not have a parks director
No.
during the summer.
Right.
So if it's gonna take us this long to find a person to do this, I just don't want our programs to stop while we're looking at this. So I think, if you're gonna reach out to Seth, please do, I think that's something we can't afford not to have
Well,
once the program starts, correct?
the director and the splash pad operator are in there at a set number. I believe the director, Justin, 10,000, splash pad 7,500, or the other way, 10,000 for director and 7,500, so 17,500. You'd have to prorate it, or keep him there for the rest of that time, for the rest of the year, because he's never done. Seth, and I still can't say enough, Seth does a wonderful job, and I've talked to him on the phone, because I didn't want him blindsided with any of this, because he's a great person and does a wonderful job and really works hard. So I didn't want to blindside him on that. But I do also know, like I already said before, that he loves his profession. That's why he went to school, and he loves his profession, so.
Yeah, can I add a couple more?
Absolutely, Ray, please do.
Programs, a new program this year, starting June 29th, we have Music in the Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have a band playing on a Saturday night at Centennial Park, one band playing in July, and a band playing in August at Centennial Park.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our brand new program this year.
And a brand new shelter in about a year and a half or so would be pretty nice. I know there was some organized down there. It's been a while ago now, and it went over real well. Just going over to Larry Butkus, the municipal band director, he does a great job. And the Maud Powell Plaza is full, on Saturday nights. There's probably easily 100 to 130 people in there. It's full. It goes over real well. So you want to just expand on that,
Your Honor,
Yes.
it should be noted that the money that is on top of the $52,000 for the special event coordinator would be a wash because of the 17,500 that Seth is getting. So that should wash the benefits in the IMRF pension.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Alderman Payton was just bringing up, the current one, Seth, he'll be collecting some monies during this time, and then quite frankly, if you get a new person in, you're going to want to shadow each other for a little while, and because if you're looking at early to mid-July before you have a person in place, and then Seth, when does the splash pad close? Middle of August? Labor Day weekend, so, then some of his duties diminish, so you'd have, let's say you'd have 6 weeks of overlap, and I don't see a problem with 6 weeks of overlap, You wouldn't want to have a handshake walking out the door and the other one walking in the door, so.
The cost of the benefits, really just to kind of clarify what Alderman Waldorf is saying, it really depends on what kind of insurance package we're dealing with. Our costs vary drastically based on.
Right, single, married, or married with family, right? Right.
Actually does the hiring.
Who actually does the hiring? Council approves to go to Human Resources. Human Resources puts it in the advertising. Once the resumes come in, the department that that person is going to work in will do it. For instance, the last two administrative assistants that came into our engineering department, the interviews were done by HR and engineer Eric Carls. I didn't have a hand in them at all. I had no idea, nor did the council, of who, number one, who the resumes even came in from, or I knew that they were going to have interviews on such and such a day, but I never, the last person that was hired, I never met that administrative assistant until that administrative assistant was actually sitting in the seat across the hallway. I had no clue who it was. This one will be working with the mayor some, so I may be included on that, because you'll be, the person will be working with the mayor, the person will be working with engineering, the person will be working with Jeff King. There's quite a few things. The person will be working with the rec board. Like I said, I want to make sure that the press doesn't write that we're trying to do this and we're going to do away with the rec board, because that's not where I'm going with it. So let's move on.
Excuse me, one more thing, please, one more.
Yes.
You said the budget for the Parks Department would have enough to absorb most of the salary or all of the salary?
Well, what I said with the question that came, I don't remember who it came from, but what I said was the budget right now for that. Actually, the budget in the park system. Here's one way that I've been explained as to some that I've talked to. For instance, we have, the police department has a $4.2 million budget? Right in that area, $4.2 million budget. Police department has, 26 officers? 24 officers, and then including commanders and sergeants, and it's 24 total. And then with the staff that's in there, the telecommunicators through the IVRD, and administrative assistants, what's in the building, up to 28, never at the same time because of shifting and whatnot.
26 full-time city employees and the telecommunicators.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously there's a lot of the
But we...
crossing guards and whatnot that are part-time people.
Right. But you have a $4.2 million budget. You have a chief, you have a deputy chief, you have a commander, you have, how many sergeants and lieutenants?
4 sergeants, 1 in patrol, 1 in detective, and 1 lieutenant.
Okay, so what is that, eight people on a $4.2 million budget? The under Parks and Recreation, it's a little over 800,000, 850,000. We have basically zero.
You combine parks and then the recreation budget.
Yeah. But as far as coordination, we have zero. No, I'm not taking anything away from Jeff King. I'm not taking away from anything that the Recreation Department does. But what I'm saying is nobody is dedicated to that. Yeah. We have the Engineering Department is responsible for what, Eric, this year, another $8 million, something like that?
Yeah, currently, between programming, in construction and closeout, we've got about $30 million in capital improvement projects.
Yeah, so...
I just want to make sure that the parks budget can absorb this without the parks taking a hit.
Going back, Alderman Buffalo, to what you're asking, where I was going with it is, it's roughly $850,000 that's in the budget, in the approved budget right now, and we don't have anybody there. But as far as taking away, I don't see it. If this person came in and if it is the middle of July is already the 7th month, so you're already 2 months, 2.5 months, let's say 3 months into your new budget year, because it goes till April 30. So, you're already into it a little bit. If the equipment's not, the $55,000 that's in there, if it's not purchased right now, we can hold off on that. So we don't have to do too much amending, so there is monies in there, monies available. Back.
I think what I would ask of the council would be in this consideration to, is the position justified, and if it is, moving forward for budgetary needs, because if we're going to talk about expanding activities within the city, there comes a cost to that. Now, if we keep all things the same, this is gonna have to be something that's gonna be added to that budget. So I think also in consideration, that's something that you need to look at, and what really are gonna be your expectations for this person as far as, events and the cost that those are going to incur. So I think really solely, you know, with the council, that's really your consideration that you're really gonna have to think about, because ultimately it's gonna be your decision.
I agree. Just, I don't know where the mayor went, so I would just think, oh, there it is. I would just think that those are all considerations that the council will look at. And I think looking at hiring this person, we have to look at, you know, will the Parks and Rec raise budget, will that be effective? I don't know. I think I can foresee things changing if you have somebody who is now looking after that line item in the Parks and Rec, like you said, Justin. Again, it's just, you know, I think that we just need to get the questions answered, the concepts right. I do. You know, just get the few questions answered, and then we can get out there and get it done.
Hey, anybody else on that? Anybody? Okay, let's move. Okay, one thing that I wanted to show here was that there's some of the pool people here, and I know you've been sitting there a long time, you know, quite a few years. The last year of operation of the pool was 2009. In 2009, you had a structure that was built in 1927, and the structure in 2009 was losing 70,000 gallons of water a day, and the expenses were $135,000, and the receipts were roughly $17,000. And once again, you had a structure that was, it needed some vast improvements. In 2009, we quite frankly, we didn't have much money here. The city didn't. We've worked very hard with the council. I've worked now with 14 different council members, and everybody's come in here and worked very, very hard on our fiscal responsibility. But I'll say it right now. I don't have a revenue source identified yet for a pool, but we'll go farther as we go along. But what I wanted to show was we never did lose sight of it, because we had a referendum back in March of 2014. I believe it was March 18th. I just looked it up, and the referendum asked yes or no to raise your property taxes to pay for a pool. The referendum went down 59 and change to 40 and change to make the 100%. So the referendum failed, so you couldn't raise property taxes to do that. But we still didn't. Yes, Gina?
We had worked for several years with NORS to get our grant. You took that grant and you spent $2 million on that.
That's not true, Gina. I don't want to be confrontational, but that's not true. It's not true.
Where is the grant?
The grant is in the park, the splash pad park, but that's what I'm showing you right here. The way the first grant was over in Washington Park by the library, and we never had the money for this. It was over by the library, but back in March of 2014, June of 2014, August of 2014, and it shows a future pool site. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows we didn't lose sight of the fact that at some point in time, Peru may have a pool.
But the library also agreed to go in with us to have a parking lot on the northwest corner of Washington Park, where that semi-quarter road.
Okay.
We were going to put a parking lot there, a level parking lot that would have been used for the pool, for the splash pad, and for the library. And that...
No, you're correct. You're
You and your group never came to us and asked our opinion of anything.
We were still trying to get a grant. We were still trying to have the money.
Grant.
We didn't have one at that time. And then along came the refinance. Gina, this can be constructive or not. That's up to you.
Well, I want the facts to be brought up.
I'm telling you the way it was. We never lost sight, and this was the original splash pad plan in 2016. That is when then the bond was refinanced, the Parkside bond was refinanced, and that is when also Peru Grade Schools did the remodeling at Northview, and then Washington was closed. Peru Grade Schools took down the facility, and now that's where it's at.
Our pool.
No.
No, it didn't.
Was it earmarked for the pool? Was it earmarked for a splash pad?
We were working on a splash pad / pool. We traveled all over this northern Illinois looking at splash pads and pools.
Like I said, Gina, move forward. There was not a grant for a swimming pool. At that time, the IDNR was not giving out any grants for facilities less than 365. They weren't giving out grants for facilities less than 365. Okay? So,
What about the extra monies that we had collected with the events that we had? What happened to that?
you're way off base. You're way off base, and once again, you can be constructive or not. I would hope you would be constructive. You know, don't sit and make allegations that they're not true, Gina. It is what it is, and they're not true. Okay. Here's the good news. There was what, Eric, 2 people from the IDNR here about 2 weeks ago,
That's
3
correct.
weeks ago?
Yes, we had our final walkthrough about 3 weeks ago with the IDNR.
Okay, and they came because why?
They came to do a review of our grant application and the items that were completed in the grant application.
I'm sorry. Are you done?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Well, and I should add that they found that everything was completed satisfactorily, and we were able to close that project.
Okay, what you said was just key. They found that everything was completed satisfactorily to them by what was submitted to them, Miss Martin. That's what was submitted to them, and we built it as submitted. The pool wasn't part of that.
I know it wasn't. You didn't include us either. We didn't include
That's why you're here right now, so we can talk about this. Okay.
But what happened to the volleyball court and
A splash pad is much more feasible to run day-to-day operations. Last year, we opened the splash pad in June, I believe it was June 18th. June 18th till close at Labor Day, we paid $19,250 in labor and $9,500 in utilities. That's a far cry from what the old pool was. You're looking at $28,750. The pool in that time frame may have been $55,000, $70,000. I'm not sure. I do have some figures from our friends over in Morris. In Morris, they rebuilt their pool. They had a pool, same situation that we had, and they went out on a design build, and it went real well. That started in 2011, and I believe, Mike, when were they swimming? 2013? 13 or 14. They had bathhouses still there, which our bathhouses were not compliant, so you just couldn't use them anyway. And they had bathhouses there that they did have to make some changes, but structurally and size-wise, they were okay with today's rules and regulations. They redid their bathhouses probably in 12. We don't know what they spent on the bathhouses. They did use the same structures. They did redo what was inside. We don't know what they spent. I'm going to just pull a figure out, let's say $200,000. I'm not sure. The design and build on the pool, they had total construction costs of $2.1 million, not including engineering, on the pool in Morris. And Morris has a nice pool. They have a dive section. They even went with a high dive, which is an expensive proposition. Because how deep did they have to go? Do you know? 12, 15 feet? Right. They have a zero entry so it's ADA compliant. In 2019, this was printed in 04/10 of 2019. So for the 2018 period, they had revenue totals of $107,000 on their pool. They charge for resident children $1. They charge for resident adults $3. They charge for non-resident children $2, and they charge for non-resident adults, I believe it's $5. They rent out the pool for activities, for swim pool rent, swim pool mommy and me lessons, swim pool little fins lessons, swim pool. So they rent the pool out, so they're receiving some money off of that. But they did have, on their daily swimming, they had a credit of $59,857. That's a lot of people through there. When you look at a facility that is open on Memorial Day, hopefully, and it closes the middle of August, what is that? How many days is that? It's roughly maybe a 70-day season. You know, if you go Memorial to Labor, you're a 90-day season, but the school's closed and you lose all your help, so it doesn't stay open that long. So.
They have beautiful.
So you have to decide what is the revenue that you're going to use for the pool. Like I said, I haven't, and I've sat with finance officer a lot, and together we haven't identified a revenue source as we see it right now. It's going to take revenue. So somebody's going to have to make a decision on how we're going to raise revenue for the pool. And I mean paying for the pool. Let's say that Morris in 2013 spent $2.1 million with inflation in construction materials, construction costs. Let's say, and brand new bathhouses, let's say it's $4 million, which would probably be all of $4 million. It would probably approach $5 million. So I know it's a hard question to ask CPAs, because you have to deal and use numbers that are fact instead of just pulling numbers out. But on a 20-year bond, $5 million, what would be our payment? And this yeah, so 300,000, and then we know that over in Morris that their expense was what they have listed here, $100,827.56, and their revenue, they did make money. They made $7,000. So it is possible. They're in a little larger community. I don't know how close any pools are around them. You've got to remember that there's a pool in the south 3 miles from here. There's a pool in Oglesby, 6 miles from here. There's a pool in, does Spring Valley even have a pool? There's a pool in Spring Valley. There's pools out there. You know, there's many yards that have pools in the back of them now too. But we have to find a revenue source. Here's one of the good notes though. When Eric was talking about the IDNR was at the park, and they were overseeing to make sure that we spent the money where the money was supposed to be spent, which we did, unlike what I heard at the beginning. We did spend the money where it was supposed to be spent, but they were asked at that time, would you support a pool? And they said they would definitely support a pool. They looked at our plans and they said we would support one. So that's something different than what happened back in 2014, 2015, because back then, IDNR said we won't support anything unless it's 365. Now they're saying that they would support one. Okay, if they support it, if you do receive some money, it's probably going to be a 50-50 match. It's highly unlikely they'll give you $2 million. But even if they give you $800,000 or $1 million, that's a 50-50 match, and then you need to put in the rest to build the facility. So it's still not something that we're working on it. We're trying. We're in a completely different position than we were 10 years ago. You know, like I said, Morris, their pool was in the same situation that ours was, and they completely dug it out. So the only thing they did different than we would be doing is they dug out an old pool, whereas we would be digging out dirt to make the hole. So,
I believe when you expanded the splash pad plans and all that, and it got to be a lot more money in it, didn't you use hotel motel tax money to?
Well, see, that's
Possibilities.
that's what I was going to task you with, and whoever wants to help you. Stop in and see Justin. There is possibilities out there that I think council may agree with. We can't raise property taxes. We asked that. You know, we have very low property taxes. Everybody that lives in Peru knows if you look at your property tax bill for the city is very low. It's 4 cents on the dollar. And we want to keep it that way, if not make it better. So there is other avenues that come in and see Justin and go over some things. Justin and I have talked, and there is revenue sources that could be explored. They would have to be implemented, but they could be explored for moving forward.
Like donation,
What's that?
donation,
Well,
the big donation you have for the,
you have, right now, donations are wonderful, don't take me wrong. We're going to have a new clock out in front of the building that was a donation. Donations are wonderful, but it's been 10 years and you have $120,000. That's, you know, barely 1 year.
Maybe we should start a pool committee, people that want to get involved and help raise money.
Well, I just said, come on in and talk to Justin and explore some possibilities. That's the best way to do it. And as we just said, a pool committee, I've seen many people come and go on a pool committee. Many people come and go. I see one constant here that's been here all along, and thank you very much. And everybody that's been on it has worked hard at it, but I've seen many people come and go. So we need to deal with reality, and reality is it's going to take a revenue source. So come in and talk to Justin, and he can lay some things out that he thinks maybe perhaps council would listen to or would agree to, and we'll find out. Mike?
I guess, one of the questions that I would really pose to the council is, this next year's budget kind of offers us a unique opportunity. I have noticed that there's several bonds that are going to be paid off, and you hate to say that while we're paying off this debt, we could accrue more debt, but basically keep the ship at even keel, because technically we would be paying off debt but accruing more debt for a pool. I guess that would be something I would ask the council to consider, if they'd be, if that's, that would be something that would be,
Well, one issue on the debt that's coming off, it's a different piece of the pie. Basically it's all infrastructure, isn't it?
There's water issuances for water sewer improvements, so those funds will be utility funds, but technically wouldn't be in the general fund where the pools would come from.
Now, some of it could be used at the pool for the infrastructure needs. There may be 100,000, there may be 800,000 of infrastructure needs. So some of that, because that money is earmarked for infrastructure, and you have to keep it in infrastructure. That's why, like I said, the pool, it's new money. Mary?
I'm pleased to see that this issue is up for discussion. Having moved back here, I'm really pleased to know that people in the area are talking about it. Two questions. What's the impetus for talking about it now? And number two, if it's the consensus of the council to move forward with this, will we go out for new bids, hire new consultants to do research and so forth, or will we work with the numbers that could be stale for it?
What I'm asking is some of the public members to come in, like I said, and talk with their finance officers and see what they think would be palatable, because almost everybody in here is a Peru residents, okay? So what would be palatable to the Peru residents? There's already a 0.5% for paying for the Parkside schools, and we have beautiful grade schools because of it. There's a 0.5% that's paying for our infrastructure needs, and we're investing more in infrastructure in our city than try and find one that's investing as much in their infrastructure as we are at the pace that we're investing in our infrastructure, and it's showing. The roads are improving. I don't know, as far as flooding, we haven't had, I don't mean the river flooding, but as far as flooding areas in different parts of town, the phone calls just haven't come in. We've had the third worst flood in history on Water Street during this last rain period. That was the third worst in history, coming off the first worst in history back in 2013. So it's making progress. But what I wanted to say, you know, feel free, please do come in and talk to Justin. And we never lost sight of that. It takes time. Once again, we're in a different position now than we were 10 years ago. We were in need. And that's where I started with and I know many of you have heard it, and you probably don't want to hear it again, is the wants and needs. And we were in need of fixing our financial situation, so. But we've got, we should wrap this up because we'll take a little 5-minute break, and then we have our regular council meeting starting at 7 o'clock. So, thanks everybody for coming. We'll do this again. What can anybody take? A month? Once a month? Of those that are here? Once a month? Once a month? Okay. All right, that okay with council? We're here. We're basically here anyway, so. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll go to start our regular council meeting.